Lisa Hanson. Good evening. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Lisa Hanson. I stand before you, a child of God, daughter of a king. I will not be shamed into silence, and I will never apologize for standing up for our kids. My label should be concerned parent, but I'll take litterbox lady if it'll bring attention to what's going on in our schools across this country. When did our public schools stray so far from your primary role? Your responsibility is to teach academics, not ideology. Parents send their kids to school for an education, not to question their gender and not to play pretend. I know you've tried to distance yourself from this furry behavior, but I talk to kids and parents. I know it's happening here and in schools across our great nation. Why is this being allowed? It clearly violates your dress code and your code of conduct. Requiring students to act human is a reasonable standard. So parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles, talk to your kids, and if you don't agree with what's happening in our schools, stand up and stand in the gap for your kids. If we as a society accept this behavior, what's next? This confusing and distracting behavior is detrimental to our kids' focus on education in the classroom. There's risk for psychological damage on both sides. My understanding is that the kids that don't go along with it are the ones that get reprimanded. Just imagine an authority figure such as a teacher or counselor or principal telling our kids to go along with this when our kids can see with their own eyes that it isn't real. It seems to me like mental and emotional abuse, and I'm just guessing. That same authority figure would never have the nerve to bully an adult. Requiring students to act human is a reasonable standard. We keep hearing the experts say, well, I'm here to make it very clear that parents are the experts when it comes to our kids. And your focus should be on academics, not ideology. Last I checked, these are public schools, not government schools, right? Requiring students to act human is a reasonable standard. I don't know why this is being allowed, and I don't know who is behind this agenda, but as I learned from the Midland Daily News, everyone is entitled to their opinion. So my opinion is that there must be funds attached, but I'm just a single mom with minimal time to research, so I hope that someone will get to the bottom of this. I've stated at previous board meetings that our leadership has failed us at every level for this to come down to parents and school boards across this country. Why haven't our leaders in Lansing stood up for our kids, or our leaders in DC? Personally, I'm disgusted with both sides of the aisle because this has happened on their watch. But I've told my daughter from the start, this is not her fight. She's just a kid. I'm the grown-up. I'm the parent. This is my fight, but our representatives should be leading the way. Where are they? So I'll say it again, talk to your kids, your grandkids, your nieces and nephews, find out what's going on in our schools, and if you don't agree, stand up and stand in the gap for our kids because they all deserve better. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe Bonides. Good evening, sir. How are you? Thank you for joining us.
Hello, my name is Joe Bonides, and I'm here to correct the record regarding the fiasco at the January 19th special board meeting. If you go back and review the video of that meeting at the 6-minute mark, you will find my wife's attempt to address the board. 1 minute into her talk, her First Amendment rights were violated by being denied the right to inform the board of the behavior of some of its members right in this meeting room after that meeting. She was again interrupted at the 2-minute mark by informing the board of a dramatic change in its behavior by not reading or approving the study group minutes from the January 10th meeting. There was blustery denial and several claims by Mr. Sharrow that the minutes were read and approved. If you look at the January 10th agenda subcommittee meeting, items 11, 12, and 13 go directly to for action. And if you look at the video, the minutes in dispute are clearly absent. And the draft minutes for the meeting of January 10th available on the 20th did not have those meeting minutes in them either. 5 calls to action from these committees, of course, required no decisions to be made to show up at that meeting. When a citizen sent a letter to Mr. Sharrow on January 20th calling out his abuse of my wife, he said my wife was, quote, or has, quote, lied and shared false information multiple times, unquote, and claimed, quote, correcting her was needed to set the record straight, unquote. For the record, I have the citizen's permission to share this communication. I will not beat a dead horse regarding the not reading and approving the 3 subcommittee minutes again. Mr. Sharrow's multiple verbal claims on the contrary at the meeting were the lies. Mr. Sharrow also brought up the oath issue again in that email. I can provide video timestamps of the multiple phases. Basically, grand claims were made in October that he took an oath to protect the students. He provided a CRT-laden generic boilerplate document marginally related to the issue at hand, which had nothing to do with his specific role. It did, however, say he was supposed to uphold the Constitution, however. Finally, last December, Mr. Hatfield, thank you, had morning coffee with my wife and I. He mentioned that he found my wife's emails confusing and asked if I had proofread her messages before sending them in. Well, I will note that all of you were copied on Mr. Sharrow's messages calling my wife a liar from that January 20th meeting. If you go to it's in your inbox. I guess you are all okay with that behavior by your employee. Thank you.
So, Mr. McFarland, I'm going to interrupt here. I'm going to interrupt, and Phil, please step in too. So, again, misinformed again. The meeting minutes were not, I did not say they weren't read. The meeting,
Mr. McFarland, this is not on the agenda.
This is our meeting of the board.
That's not how it works.
there was no FFO meeting, hence why there was no
Guys.
non-amended, so the pattern wasn't changed. I took an oath of office, as all educators do, and it was provided to her, but Mrs. Bonavita still didn't apologize when she got up and lied that I didn't take an oath of office. Multiple lies, multiple times. I'll stand by my stance, just like tonight, misinformed again, and misinformation. That's all I'm doing is correcting information. Done with the misinformation. I will not be slandered. Get your information correct.
Furthermore, guys, look at the calendar. We met as a board in December. We had no study committees between our December meeting and our January 10th meeting. How are we going to read minutes from a meeting that we didn't have?
How did the bylaws change without
We-
a meeting, without
we-
minutes?
The bylaws
Fair
were,
question, Phil.
the bylaws were
You're not allowed
approved
to.
in the
You're
meeting.
also not allowed to interrupt public comments.
I didn't interrupt public comments. It just went for 3 minutes, guys. All right. We didn't meet. Nobody met between the December meeting and the January 10th meeting. There are no minutes read because we didn't meet.
Renita Bonavita. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Renita Bonavita. I must follow up to that January 19th special meeting where only 3 of us were present while I spoke. I was stopped from speaking by the president, and I quote, "This is not the forum to personally attack the board members. If you have something to say, that's fine, but I will not allow you to attack everybody personally." Per your own bylaws on public speaking, the presiding officer may interrupt, warn, or terminate a participant's session when they make comments that are repetitive, obscene, and/or comments that constitute a true threat. My comments didn't fall in any of those categories. Thus, I should not have been interrupted once, much less twice. As elected officials on this board, I am indeed allowed to address concerns I have. Where else can I let others know what is happening? I don't have the ability to send out a communique to the district. The fact that my comments about my personal interactions with a few of the school board members was labeled as an attack is in some ways quite comical. John Lauterbach sat there smiling in agreement while I was saying these things. He didn't seem to view it as an attack. However, just a day later, on January 20th, there was a communique that was sent out to the district about the litter boxes. It was put on Sharrow's and MPS's Twitter feeds, also on the Midland City Police Scanner page on Facebook. Not sure if it was implying there was something criminal that had been done or why it was there. Just to show, these are the graphics. This is just what happened to that little communique as it went worldwide. That was viewed over 3 million times, and that's just the ones I can track. This is also a view of the 59 plus websites that have shared that information. So for an individual to be able to stand up here and make a comment, I would like to ask, why do you go to such lengths to protect elected officials, as you all are, while condoning the smearing of a parent? Why wasn't that stopped? Did you not know that that communique was going out? Is this truly the level of integrity and conduct you expect from Mr. Sharrow as the superintendent of this school district? It is your responsibility as elected officials representing all of us to hold him accountable to the oath he took, to his job description. And if you're not willing to hold him accountable, then you need to step down and let people that will hold him accountable step in. The lack of openness and transparency of this board in your handling of interactions with the community is a disgrace. I continue to pray for each of you and your choices to do the right things,